Yay, I see us.
Yeah, I see it says live in the corner, so I trust it's working.
Yes, I hope so. I think it's on a bit of a delay. Yeah, it is on a delay. Okay, that's good to know. And you can still hear me, right, Eric?
Yep, I can hear you fine and
okay, great.
Nice and clear.
Excellent. So we'll just give folks a few minutes to continue logging in. We'll get started momentarily.
Oh, great. Our lights are all automatic or sensory here, so they just went off, but I think there's still enough.
You're still very visible.
Okay.
I think you'll be fine. Yeah.
The timing of it.
Of course. It's always the way it is.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing 13 viewers live right now. We're just going to give it one more minute and then we'll get started.
Sure.
You should get up and do some jumping jacks or something.
I know, I feel, yeah, just clap and hope they come back.
Yeah.
They're on their like own system.
All right. Well, I know that folks will continue coming in over the next few minutes, but it is 2:03, so I think it's time for us to get started. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Runners High, presented by Canada Running Series. Runners High is a series of chats with influential and inspiring folks in our wonderful running community. My name is Kate Van Buskirk, and I'm so excited to be hosting today's Runners High. This is actually my first experience as your host, and I'm very honored to be with you all today. Just to note that Runners High is an interactive event, so you can feel free to drop your hellos, your questions, your feedbacks, or whatever you want to into our comment section, and we will definitely leave some time at the end of this conversation to get to those. So our wonderful guest today is Eric Bang, and if you're a runner in the Toronto area, you have probably seen this speedster crushing it on the roads, coaching one of the various teams that he works with, or just generally offering you a huge grin. Eric has a marathon personal best of 2:19:03, and he's really cemented himself as consistently one of the top Canadian performers at CRS events. In fact, his highest ever finish at the Canadian Marathon Championships is a 4th place finish from 2016. So he is a speedy guy. Eric's also deeply invested in the communities that he works with, and he's currently a coach of Black Toes Race Team here in Toronto. And he was formerly a pacer for Toronto's Nike Run Club. And for 4 years, he led the in-run crew at the Toronto Pride and Remembrance Run, where he is also the defending champion. But despite all of his success and his name recognition, Eric's a really humble runner who says that he thinks of himself as a passionate recreational athlete who is seeking to reach his full potential in the sport. Eric, it is such an absolute pleasure to chat with you today on the last day of Pride Month. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. I was really excited when you reached out to me for this, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Fabulous. So am I. So, Eric, to get started, this has obviously been such a challenging year for so many people and for so many reasons. And for someone like yourself, who's an avid runner and an engaged member of so many different communities, how have you been handling the last few months? And how have these been for you, both sort of from a running perspective and a personal perspective?
Yeah, I think we're all facing a lot of challenges right now. For me personally, with running, the timing of this pandemic and everything shutting down. I've been injured on and off since February, so I didn't have any races on the calendar, and my training, because of this, it's like the first time in about 7 or 8 years I haven't had to be really stressed about getting back to fitness. So in a way, I'm seeing this. It's okay. It's working for me. It's obviously not a good situation, but from a other end of it, I coach a lot of different athletes, and I see how it affects them in their training, because most of the races, almost all of them, have been canceled for the fall, and so it has been a unique situation uh, to motivate people and engage with people to train and help figure out what what gets them up out the door. And so I think our team is doing well, and I think some people are taking this grace period of downtime as downtime. And I think now that things are slowly starting to, like, phase two open up a little bit, people are all of a sudden want to get back to it. So I feel their excitement, and that's what I really enjoy.
Yeah, I know you and I have talked about how much you gain from the people that you work with in terms of your own motivation and sustenance in the sport. But
Yeah.
from a personal perspective, I know that you had been dealing with a couple little injury issues over the last few weeks and months, and that you're, I believe, back into some consistent training now. So, how has training been, and have you participated in, or do you have any plans to participate in any virtual races or events over the year?
I really wanted to participate in some virtual events or time trials, um, but just the way I'm not in a condition to do that, and I don't want to do that to my body. I'm trying to respect it. But that being said, just this week with my coach, he asked if I would be open to doing a time trial or virtual event, and I was like, as soon as you give me the go ahead, I'm good for it. I don't need to be in PB shape, but I just need to be have a little bit better base of fitness. So I think there's a couple virtual races at the end of July and then the end of August that I'm looking at participating in. So
Well, this is definitely the time to listen to your body and be gentle and careful with it, hey,
yeah.
without too much stress on the horizon. Well, that's good to hear. So, backing it up just a little bit, Eric, can you tell us a bit about your own background and development as a runner? Because you've built quite a successful running resume over the last several years. But how did you get started in the sport, and what did that evolution look like?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the runners that I look up to and a lot of the runners that we know, like you, you're someone I admired growing up and coming through school and everything. And I look at athletes like yourself, and you guys have this amazing journey and pedigree of like going to OFSA, going to schools, being part of these great school teams. And I'm very different in that I don't have those credentials or accolades. And I just got into running when I was in middle school. I gravitated towards that sport because I was always worried about acceptance and being comfortable. And I gravitated towards individual sports where I didn't need to worry so much about acceptance. I didn't need to worry about whether the team was going to pass me a ball or whether I was going to be invited to like Pizza Hut or anything. It was just running. You showed up. The team was very small anyway, and then you just did your own thing. I was able to succeed and thrive without the acceptance of anyone. So I stuck with that sport through high school. I took a break when I got to university. It was different for me coming from a high school that didn't really have a big team, and having running means so much to me. Having to go to university and then all of a sudden try to integrate myself in such a close-knit team was a very intimidating to me, and it was kind of hard. So I just, at that time, I would have loved to, I wish that I had stuck with it, but at the same time, university was the first opportunity for me to kind of um, go and discover myself in other areas. And so I didn't want the challenge of looking for acceptance anymore. So I didn't run in university. Um, I got back, I still did small road races, like 5Ks, because I didn't have to train very hard for them or work very hard. And one of the races that I did, I won a free entry into Scotiabank, and that was in 2012. And I could do either the half or the full. And I just was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the full. And I I didn't really train for it, but I still got hooked on the marathon because it really destroyed me. And then after, I just wanted to come back and compete from a place of power and like actually race instead of just slowly die. And so yeah, I just at that time I was living in Toronto, so I looked for different run groups to run with, and I learned a lot from a lot of different groups. I like knew nothing about real training, and then over the years, I just really improved. When I got to a point where I was about 2:30 in the marathon, I told myself, if I can break 2:30, I'm going to allow myself to get a coach. And so in 2015, I finally broke 2:30. I followed through, I got myself a coach. And after that, it was just like 2:28, 2:24, 2:19. And I was like, why did I wait so long to get a coach? So, but yeah, it's just, I think some people look at my experience and it might just be a little bit more relatable uh, than a lot of the elites that we see, because it's true. I'm just a recreational runner with a lot of passion, and that gets a lot from it. And I really don't see like anything I'm capable of. I see a lot of runners that I work with that I know have the same potential. It's just, time.
Wow. That's a beautiful sentiment. And I think that you're right. That's something that a lot of runners will be able to relate to is that, I think it's Angela Duckworth, the psychologist, that said passion times perseverance equals grit. And that's often what leads to success, right?
Yeah.
Is being really in love with something and then just working really hard at it. And that's something that I think, most people can relate to. So that's a beautiful story. So speaking of, obviously you've had a lot of success across many different distances, but one of the things you said you really enjoyed early on was the 5K. And that is such a accessible event for so many people. One of the 5Ks that you've had a lot of success at, of course, is the Toronto Pride and Remembrance Run, which you are the defending champion of, and then also, I believe, won back in 2017 as well.
Yeah.
And so maybe in light of the fact that that event would have, of course, taken place over this past weekend and was unfortunately canceled because of COVID-19, can you talk us through your experience with the Toronto Pride and Remembrance Run, how long you've been participating in that event, and how that experience has changed over the years for you?
Yeah. So the Pride Run it's one of my favorite races to do. It did start off like the first time I did it was 2010. And my experience going to the start line in 2010 versus my experience going to the start line in 2018 is very different. Like probably 2010 to 2014, I would be out the night before and telling my friends, I have to stop drinking at 1 a.m. I need to be in bed by 3. I'd show up at the start line hungover and want to do well. And it was just a party for me in celebration. And however I ran, I was at peace with, and I just wanted to, those early years, I just wanted to celebrate myself and have fun. And the race just happened to fall on the weekend. And so it's something I would do. But then as time went on and I got more involved with running, I obviously my whole lifestyle changed because I wanted to invest more time. Going out wasn't so important. So I got really competitive with the race each year. And I was like, one of these years I want to win this. Like, it's not easy. Winning is not easy in anything. So I took a more serious approach. I also, about 2000, for 4 years, we through Nike Toronto and In Run magazine, we've had an In Run crew, which is an LGBTQ plus community that we bring together and we train for the run. And they have different involvements within the community as well throughout the training period. So I've been a leader of that. So it's a little bit more responsibility as well, and more purpose as well to really take the lead for a community. And it's like, so yeah, it's just evolved from just a party to actually having responsibility and having a lot of investment into it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's obviously paid off a lot. As I said, you're a two-time winner of this event. Last year, you won handily in a very speedy 15:12. And there's this beautiful photo of you kind of throwing up your hands in the air, victorious as you cross that finish line with this big smile on your face. And you posted that photo on Instagram a few days ago, as we said, on what would have been the 2020 edition of the Toronto Pride and Remembrance Run. And your opening line of that post, and it's a beautiful post, you wrote, "Representation matters." And you went on in that post to talk about learning how to claim your space and about the importance of a visible and celebrated LGBTQ presence in sport, and particularly in running. Can you talk us through that post a little bit and what it means to you to have that representation and that space for yourself and others in your community?
Yeah, absolutely. So that photo is actually from the first time I won in 2017. And it doesn't really matter where it's from, but what matters is what's captured in that photo for me. When I see that photo, I see someone that I didn't see when I was 18. I didn't have anyone, like that was not seen when I was 18. I didn't have that example to see. And for me, I think that moment of my winning the pride race for the first time in that picture is just, it is like, to me, it, in that moment, it was me claiming and owning my space, not just as a gay person, but also as the more than, like as the athlete that I am, as the athlete I believe I am. That picture is capturing me being proud of who I am as a person. And it is also capturing me excelling in a sport that I love and taking that space and saying, I belong here and I can excel here. And it did really capture a really happy, powerful moment for me. And that post came about because I was kind of, obviously we were sad we're missing races, but I think a couple weeks ago, there's an American runner, Marielle Hall. She did a post talking about her experience with racism in running. And she kind of talked about why she picked to go to Texas instead of another school. And when you see something, the first thing you do is you try to identify with it through your experience. And so even though wasn't talking about, even though it was a different topic, I was seeing it and I was thinking, she looked for a safe space to go where she didn't have to deal with microaggressions. And so that resonated with me. And there was an underlying thing of representation and inclusion in that. And then just last week, there was a post going around with all the Runner's World covers. And it's talking about representation. And all these things are related to race. And again, when I first received something, I process it through my experience. And when I was seeing this, I thought, how would my decisions of participation been different had I seen people claiming spaces in other areas that I was in that would have given me permission to be there or given me confidence to be there. So I posted that because I was thinking of it, and I honestly I do think of my university experience that was more of a not experience because like I didn't see other LGBT people thriving or claiming their space in a way that said, I'm here, you can be here as well. I'm sure there were other LGBT athletes at the school, but I think during that time that I was there, I think a lot of people, they'd be out or they'd find their comfort and then they would just be very settled. And I'm guilty, well, I want to say guilty, but I do that too. Like I find my comfort, which is a privilege to find comfort. I think a lot of us have comfort and comfort is a privilege. And then once I've had it, I just sit down and I enjoy it. And just looking at my university experience, everyone's nice and everyone, a lot of people rest on nice, and it's comforting to them to be able to say I'm a nice and I'm a good person. But I think when you're dealing with people who are from a group that has been repressed or pushed away, it's not enough to just be nice or a good person. You need to really think about how we can include them and how we can lift them up and how we can make a space be welcoming to them.
Mhm.
So
And that's such a big part of the conversation right now in so many realms. It's not really enough anymore just to say that I am, like you said, a nice person or a good person. It's the work around being anti-discriminatory, right? In so many
exactly.
different aspects. And that it sounds to me like that's something that has really resonated with you as well.
Yeah, and it it makes me think of my own self, and a lot of times and like I said, I'm guilty of just being like, well, I worked hard to find a place that I'm comfortable in and to surround myself and build a place of power for myself. And I've sat in that place, and I do sit in that place currently, and I've just been like, well, now I've arrived for myself and I'm good. But I think a lot of us do that, and we can't do that anymore. And I'm really out of touch with university and high school, so I don't know the systems that are in place right now. But I do think, and I'm hopeful for younger generations that they are getting to be their authentic selves through high school. And so when they do arrive to university, this doesn't need to be a factor in their participation because they've got to spend their whole high school experience in places that stood up for them and supported them.
Mhm. Well, and of course, we talk about the Toronto Pride and Remembrance Run and other events like that across the country and across the world that are celebrating our LGBTQ plus community. Of course, I don't always know if you see yourself this way, but you are such a community leader and such a tremendous role model just in being your authentic self within the running community and the work you're doing as a coach and as a leader. Are there any other things that you would like to see change specifically in the Canadian running scene to not only break down barriers for access, but to help really celebrate and create that comfort and that space of inclusion and celebration for other LGBTQ runners?
That's tricky because, again, it's not so much like Canadian Run Series, Canadian running community is so open and inclusive and supportive, and I've never felt like like fringed by it at all, which is why I'm a part of it. It's a tricky thing because here I am asking and wishing that we had more representation, but at the same time, it's like you can't just you ask for that, but you don't want to be it. A lot of people in
Mhm.
situations, and you can't just make people stand up and be representative. And so I don't know. I don't know the answer to what we can do more. I think the most important thing that we can do is just have reflection on our roles. Well, have reflection on the experiences that are not ours. Look at someone else and try to break down their experience, compare it to ours, and see how they differ and how we affect that experience. And I don't think there's any giant big change or overhaul that needs to happen. I just think that people need to start being aware of the difference between I accept you, I include you. There's a difference. And um, I've always felt like most places, because everyone wants to be very politically correct and doesn't want to be offside. So everywhere will accept you. Not everywhere will include you. And that's a big difference. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, well said. So on the topic of inclusion and also of celebration, of course, we are wrapping up Pride Month, the month of June, and of course Pride Weekend, including the Pride Run and various parades and other celebrations and sort of acts of protest or celebration would have been taking place over the last few days and weeks. But of course, because of COVID-19, there wasn't any type of real Pride Week or Pride Month the way there have been in the past that so many people around Canada and around the world look forward to. How have you been celebrating Pride this year, and how has this maybe been different for you compared to previous years?
Yeah. COVID has changed a lot of how we're experiencing the world right now. And honestly, I looked at this pride as almost a moment of silence because honestly, I don't think I would have been happy to have celebrated Pride this year with everything else that's going on. The whole reason that we have a month or a weekend where we go out and we celebrate and we have a parade and party is because we're liberated and we've had people fight for that and we've had people protest for that so we can have that. And I wouldn't like honestly, I wouldn't have felt good going to a pride parade this year and celebrating my liberties and my freedoms when despite there being COVID and a pandemic, there are people going to protest every week because they don't feel that they have equality and because they don't feel they're liberated and they still have things to fight for. And so in a way, I think, I don't want to say I'm happy it was canceled, but I think it's good that we had all had some quiet time to reflect on the privilege that we have, the things that we're missing, and then see people that are still fighting for those things. And so this pride, I just really thought of all the things I take for granted that I get to take for granted because someone else got them for me. And then it made me think, like, when am I going to stand up for someone and when am I going to do something? And so I think it was 2 Fridays ago, I went to the defund the police protest. And for me, I think I'd rather have gone to that than a pride parade. And I went to that and I just went and I observed and I sat and it was very powerful. And I think as an LGBT person, we identify with people who are fighting for their rights and who are repressed. So if we can't see that, then it's hard to expect others to see that. So I think a lot of people in the LGBT community kind of are seeing what's going on and relating to it and putting our voices and our support behind it.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said. And I think for so many members of the running community, for so many members of various communities, as you've mentioned, and then those of us also working towards allyship, that's a really important thing for us to be reflecting on throughout this time, but also on our runs. And I know that I've felt myself reflecting a lot about my own freedoms and privileges as a runner in this country over the last several weeks. So that was a beautiful sentiment. Thank you for sharing that, Eric. So on that note, of course, as we move forward through the summer, you said you are kind of getting your fitness back under your legs again now, and you've got some health to get excited for now. What are your summer racing plans? You mentioned you might be doing a couple of virtual events later in the summer. What kind of summer
Yes.
racing or training plans do you have?
Yeah, so the plan is to get fit enough to participate in these. And I don't need to be in PB shape. I just need to be able to race from a place of power. And so my coach mentioned there's a race at the end of July, an 8K, and there's another one, a 10K at the end of August. And they're through, oh, I'm going to get this wrong. The Odyssey, Race Odyssey. I think it's with Kingston. I should know this, but you just mentioned it yesterday. I was like, I'm game. So I'm just building towards getting fit to do time trials and participate in those. Long-term racing. I just wanted, it's this whole, everyone's trying to figure out how fit they need to be. Is it 70% or 80%? And then like top it off once the races go. But really right now, I'm just appreciating being able to do workouts again, because that's what I love about running. The race is one day, the workouts are like the whole journey. So I love doing workouts, but if I'm fit enough to participate in a virtual race, I'm definitely going to.
Excellent. So we're nearing our end here, but I'd like to wrap up just with a couple of fast facts for you here. So I'll throw a couple of quick questions at you as an athlete and a coach.
Okay.
So the first one would be, do you have a favorite pre-race food?
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter, just straight peanut butter?
Oh yeah, I have if I have a workout, I'll have like 2 spoonfuls of peanut butter.
Nice. That's one of my favorites too.
It just, it doesn't fill you, but it like gives you something to burn.
Totally, especially on those longer runs, those longer races. Favorite place to run in Toronto or beyond?
Favorite place to run in Toronto? I'm gonna say Leslie Spit. You just feel removed from the city and then you look back on it and you're just like, I can't live anywhere else. I just love it. I love it.
That's a good plug for tourism Toronto.
Yeah, there you go. It is beautiful.
Do you have a favorite racing memory?
Oh, it's tough. No, actually, no, hands down. My 2008, wait, what year are we? 2018 Chicago, where I ran that 2:19:03. I did it with a training partner, and like that memory and that experience was just amazing. Just from the training cycle to the race and seeing my friend succeed and achieve, it was really great. That will go
That's
down. It will be hard to top. I'd have to do something really great.
Well, we'll look forward to that. That's a good challenge for yourself.
Yeah.
As a coach, what are some of your best tips for training through the hot summer months?
Hydrate all the time. Hydrate, and not just with water, something with electrolytes or sodium. A lot of the time, like after a run, I'll be like still feeling not well or whatever. And then I have something salty. I'm like, oh yeah, sodium.
Right.
It's important.
Good reminder.
Yeah.
And final question, once we eventually, restrictions are starting to slowly ease, everyone's trying to be cautious, but once we eventually come out of this COVID-19 state, what are you most looking forward to in terms of the running community?
I'm just looking forward for us all to be able to get together in race in that environment. It can't be recreated unless, a race environment is not something you can recreate doing virtually. And it's a unique environment. And I'm just looking forward to for us all to get back to a start line and have that experience, like that race morning experience the night before. Like you can't recreate it. And the energy of people, I'm looking forward to just getting a race date. It may not be anytime soon, but something to look forward to.
That's a great answer. I know that's something we're all looking forward to, and it'll come soon enough. But yes, a good thing to keep us all motivated through the summer. So I was just checking to see if we have any questions from our live chat on our Facebook Live, and it appears that we don't have any at the moment, although of course this session today is being recorded. So there will be lots of folks, I think, tuning in over the next couple days and weeks to be able to hear all of your wonderful comments and experiences. Eric, I want to thank you so much for being part of today's Runner High. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk with you, and we wish you all the best in running and beyond.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I was, again, really happy that you reached out.
And we're so happy that you were available and excited to join us. And I'm sure we'll be talking with you again soon. We want to thank everyone who tuned in today and throughout this week. Just a couple of quick notes before we say goodbye. The Canada Running Series Oasis Zoo Run and Under Armour Vancouver Eastside 10K virtual registrations are opening on July 7th. So in 1 week's time, make sure you tune in. Don't miss your registration for those virtual events happening later this year. They will be very exciting to participate in. There will be another Runner's High in 2 weeks' time. But until then, we want to wish everyone a very happy and safe Canada Day week. For Runner's High and Canada Running Series, my name is Kate Van Buskirk. Thank you so much for tuning in.